But as we jump into our panel, please jump onto the chat and write anything that you want to ask of the panel. I have some of my own questions, but if you have your own, then I'd love to make sure that I get those asked as well. I shared that I wrote some BIM execution plans and completely failed at doing that, and wrote scopes that nobody ever understood. And today's panel is about changing that narrative. And I mentioned about this need for, I use the term digital interventions. So I'd love to talk about some of those, hear some real stories, not theory, not marketing slides, but where you've rolled your sleeves up. Lots of them were partnering with owners and figuring out how to manage information in a way that actually works for them. And it kind of linked in really nicely with some of the things that I was talking about building trust. And it was great I was actually really surprised, but it was great to hear that it was all using Planoly. More importantly, though, it's about the courage that they showed, and the communication, and a lot of the collaboration with all of those different opportunities to get people in. So let's kick it off with a sort of a broad question, but one tied in there. Have you ever handed over a beautifully built model only to be told we don't know what to do with it? Have you been in that situation where you've kind of spent a lot of time to create something? And I can see some nodding. Who wants to jump in? Any stories where you built something and it hasn't been quite used in the way that you thought it was going to be?
Maybe I'll just chip in on that very quickly. I think a lot of clients that we work with, right, in the market that's still maturing, would think that more is more, right? So a lot of kind of requirement on geometric detail instead of the information that's inside. So I think that has been a classic problem of, so after building all these things in great detail, but in the FM stage, right, in the facility management operational stage, then you actually end up having to trim down and to realize that a lot of the information that's required is not built in, whereas a lot of the geometry that's not required is built in. So that speaks to the importance of better planning to avoid all that effort going to waste.
Yeah, as you said, it's not always less is more. It's not always more is more. But when you get an owner, and it's great having this opportunity to chat with all of you that have had that communication over the years with owners. How have you managed to pare down the scope? How have you managed to target actually what's useful? Have you got any stories there about how? Because every time I speak with an owner and you ask them, what would you like? The answer is yes. Yes, I'll have that. Yes, I'll have that. So is there any way that you've found useful in conversation, or in some of the approaches that you've taken to help with that and getting the right amount of scope agreed to?
For us, I think. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you go, and then I was just going to target the question somewhere else as well.
Sure. I think we try to actually translate some of these into kind of cost or time implications, right? And I think that's why you have to also kind of document how you come up with those recommendations in the early stages of projects, and not because a lot of the stakeholders that joining late will keep kind of rehashing a similar set of requirement. So I think a lot of times, for example, we would actually tell them about the model performance speed, or the cost of, like, say, hypothetical extra storage for extra size model, and extra time it takes to make those model parts of the information that has no use for later stage. So it has been difficult, but I think documenting a lot of, not just discussing, convincing a specific stakeholder, but also documenting all these in a way for other stakeholders later on to recall and not to repeat the same requirements.
Yeah, I like that a lot. So that's speaking their language. If what they're asking for translates to a cost and a time, then you can certainly have a better conversation with them. Yeah. Locke, how has that, yeah, you're just about to jump in as well. But how
Yeah, I was
has
going to jump
that
in. Yeah.
been with defining? I think you mentioned there that there were 2,000 objects that had been defined for that 7,000 building portfolio. Is that a lot? Is that a little? Did you start with more? Did you start with less? Like, how did that conversation go?
Well, I think it's more rationalized. Reason being is there are different teams within the owner organization, different engineering groups, and different teams need different information. So what has happened is with Plannerly, it's actually easier to get buy-in of what parameters is required. So even though it's a lot, say still 11,000 rows, but every row is now justified accordingly. So instead of using Excel, which was very complicated for non-BIM engineers, right? It's very difficult for them to review the whole Excel spreadsheet. They don't know which ones is theirs, which one is not theirs. So with Plannerly, it's more rationalized, I would say. So we didn't see a reduction in the information requirements, but it's at least more rationalized.
Stephen, yeah, I have a remark on that. Everybody know, the construction project always last what 3, 4, 5 years, and there's a lot of design change. And so for us, we do modeling, and remodeling. So the problem is, okay, after 2 or 3 years, maybe our budget is already used over. So that means, okay, we need to claim. We need to claim. On physically, it's very easy to claim because I buy the material, then I install it, and now you demolish it, and then so that I have a claim. But for us, it's not easy because we need all the manpower, and always the client forgot how many change of the drawing, how many we modeling, and Plannerly really give us a very detailed report. I always export to the client. Okay, what's the modeling time for each drawing revision, how many time I spend, what is my deliverable. And I think today is on very difficult economy situation. Of course, nobody have extra budget. And my strategy now is, okay, I give the warning to the client. Now it's almost close to the red line. So that we have to figure out how we have to do it in a more efficient way. I mean, this is a kind of things that we can help our BIM industry greatly, because for the problem for BIM is, okay, I think everybody say, okay, I have a tender and I estimate the manpower to finish it. Suppose I guess, okay, this is a 3 cycle of design change, but at the end is 10 cycle of design change. Yeah. So this is, I think, for Plannerly is very good. I can say this is a single version of truth, because all the information there, all our task workforce is there. Okay, you can challenge. Okay, maybe I can give you 10% discount on your claim, but you cannot get rid of that because it's a timestamp and that. I mean, this is very important, for us. Yeah.
Being able to clearly define an achievable scope at the start, and then if something changes, as you said, it changes 15 times. It's the ability to be able to understand what's changed and then be able to go through that in a clear way that the owner's going to understand as well. Yeah. And so Harbayu was talking about making this basically a habit, and I love that. Like, how do you make something a habit? Because let's be honest, when you're thinking about planning, it's always the thing that gets squeezed. How about you? I saw you just turned your video off, but maybe you can come back to this as well, and anybody else to jump in. Can you tell us a time where skipping it actually backfired, and maybe you're able to use that in the communication and trying to make it a habit, or maybe when good planning made you out to be looking like a genius as you implemented, and using that as a positive way of reinforcing that habit. Have you got any of either side of those that you use in implementing and helping people to form habits?
Yeah, yeah, you're right. Because as you see, in Indonesia for the big things is they are really only focused for the how they decided to make a modeling, right? So the issue is after the modeling is they cannot arrange and what the goal. So always say to them, you need to be make a new habit before you modeling. You need make a good protocol or something like that. So we see to tell to them even though they make it on the Google Docs or something like a documentation or for the confessional things and also for the like a spreadsheet. It's very hard to them to make it. As you know, many sample creating on the that platform. So after we using it, especially with the platform for the plenary, they one by one is more, oh okay, I know how to do more better modeling. If we doing the better good habit to make it more documentation is more clearly from the beginning, and then we'll see the good effect after they make it, and then they know about the what milestone that I can make it for the what they call for the level of information things on the even for the from the one milestone to the next milestone, and that's it for the what I might feel in Indonesia. Because for now we want to also to tell to the people in Indonesia to how doing being is okay. You know you must start thinking to doing the better documentation first before you going to the modeling things, something like that. Quite.
So the smaller chunks of work and being able to, you mentioned each milestone, understanding what is required and being able to clearly communicate that. I see Ralph just mentioned about in the chat, how do you make a habit? Gandhi says you have to first have the thought, then the words, then the action, then habit, character, destiny or destination. So it starts with the thought. Is it easy for, I think, so I shared a diagram where it starts with it's like realization of there being a problem. It's like you go through therapy and you're like, if you're not going to realize that there's a challenge originally, then you're not going to be the one to help to solve it. So it's like, how do you get that thought in somebody's head? How do you help them see that there's a better way? Because I think there's a lot of people on the call here that already see the opportunity. They see that there can be a change and a benefit, but helping others to see that is a challenge. Opening up that opportunity to others is really what we have to do as leaders to instigate this change. Any thoughts there? And then I'm going to tie in the other question I see here from Brian. He talks about the majority. So have the majority of your client/owner interactions been with government agencies, or are there a good mix, or is there a good mix of government and private client/owners taking up BIM? I think that, not to put words in, but you mentioned, Stephen, having 15 projects with the Hong Kong Airport Authority. The JTC is an owner of government side. But maybe you could talk to the mix of how many are government, how many are big, large owners like that, and how many of your clients that you're working with and implementing BIM are maybe public or maybe just non-government entities that you're working with. Locke, did you want to jump in first?
Well, actually, I was going to jump in on the previous one in terms of how do we sort of like get owners to actually realize for themselves that they need to fix something. And I think one of the problems is actually the noise. What I mean by noise is there's a lot of content out there about what is good, what is great, what works. But I think owners need to actually have their own discussions with their own team to come up with their own solutions. And when they actually have that discussion within themselves, they will realize what steps they need to take. So I think part of the problem is actually the noise that's going around YouTube and whatever. So yeah, so it takes a while for them to actually come to some realization.
Mm-hmm. So
in terms of government, yeah, sorry.
and I was just going to say, to unpack that, the discussions with their own team, how do you facilitate that, or how do you suggest people get that one started?
Well, my approach would be actually to go to different parties on a one-on-one basis, right? If you have a lot of stakeholders in the room, you have herd mentality, where the strongest voice will actually lead, and the strongest voice may not lead them to the right path. So one-on-one discussions with key stakeholders are actually very important. You build that relationship, you build the trust, and also you give them a perspective of what's important. So having that one-on-one discussions is actually very key. Then let them figure out what to do. You don't have to point them to, hey, you need to talk to this guy or you need to talk to that guy. You don't have to do that. You just have to bring up key ideas of what you think can actually improve, and let them internalize it on their own.
One of our steps, I love that, and it ties in well with one of our steps on the digital troublemaker course. It actually identifies a stage at which you should get allies on board and understand who is likely to come with you and who is going to help you implement and help you with that change management. Yeah, very, very good. And that's a one-to-one discussion to build that trust and to start to take that forward. And then anything on the mix of your clients? How many are government versus?
Most of my clients are government, so I don't have much perspective on the private side. But from the government's perspective, if I were the private companies, the consultants, contractors, from their perspective, it's kind of like whichever the client takes us or wants from us, we'll deliver to them. So from a private perspective would be they have a myriad of tools that they need to be familiar with. They themselves are not that organized in terms of what is their own internal standards, because every owner has different ways of working, different requirements, different needs. So it's not a pretty picture for the private sector, but that's reality.
Yep. How about you? I know that you're working with others as well. Is it mixture of architects and contractors as well, or tell us more about your client mix?
Sorry, Clive, what do you mean?
Tell us more about the mixture of client types that you work with. Are you working also, in addition to government entities, are you working with architects and contractors as well, or is it all government?
Yeah, for now, I going implementing with the consultant for architecture. So maybe the special thing is they are very focusing only for doing the BEP only. So they are not focusing to doing the like AR things like or like OAR or IAR or PIR. So there's maybe the different thing is only about the making the document. Also for the scope, maybe the what you call the non modeling or about the modeling things about the task, they are really a little bit special, so needed to little bit more customized to how to doing them to doing the task, and then to relate it with the how to they can verify, because in Indonesia, not many doing the what you call the apa the data about related with the with IDS, because it just only focusing for the output of only for what we think is it's just a good still a good start, because what we see they are want to be the first architecture consultant to doing get the certificate of ISO, and they doing with the good thing is they're doing with the planner, and hopefully they will receive it as soon as possible for the certificate. Yeah,
Hopefully in less than 60 days.
yeah.
So
hopefully.
So every region's different. I think so. There's some questions in the chat about ISO 19650 sort of specifically and implementation, but every region is different, and you're at a different stage in that digital journey. What's the vibe where you are, and are people still in spreadsheet mode, or is there real momentum? I think I always hear when when I visit lots of different countries around the world, and they sort of think what we're doing is a little bit behind the rest of the world, but I think everyone thinks that a lot of the time. And sometimes you have some trailblazers that are sort of pushing the boundaries in their countries and sort of pulling everyone with them. What does it look like in your space? So maybe if we go round, Hanshi, can you share what does it feel like? What's the vibe where you are?
What you said is absolutely true, right? And I think one of the things that I really enjoy and find lucky is that I get to kind of travel across a lot of different places and even sometimes going back to the US and hear what people are doing there, right? And realizing, I think it's rather to say that we're behind. I think in a way, every region or every country is behind in a way. Like I just, since we have experts from the other places, I just use Taiwan as an example, right? And I think like we're bit behind in terms of understanding the importance of leaving a breadcrumb trail of your documents, right? People are still passing around documents, like using Line, using WhatsApp, using WeChat, but I think the adaptability of people in terms of learning all the new tools quickly can, while we still complain a lot about document management, we realize at least compared to some other places, we can get people really quickly onto some of the tools, like not just Plannerly, right? But a lot of other tools nowadays with AI and all these different things, like people are really quick to learn. So I still remain hopeful that I think instead of complaining about all this kind of backward practices, there, a lot of hope with especially the new generation that we have.
Yep. We are hoping that people come through and they don't even know how to use Word, and the PDFs are foreign concepts. Digital, online, always live, archived automatically. That's the hope that people demand that. Stephen, how about yourself? What's your client mix, and what do you feel the digital journey is like? What's the vibe in Hong Kong for you?
Actually, we have both private property developer, and also we have government projects for the big infrastructure, etc. I feel the problem for us, for go into the digital transformation for industry or even by apply using the BIM. What we are missing, a key point is about the culture of the people or the people's behavior. I think today first, on the contract wise, BIM is just, another consultant service. It's not embedded on the whole project life cycle. I mean, first, the people say, okay, you are the BIM consultant, so I have some problem, and maybe I ask you. If they don't think this is related to BIM or digital data, issues, they didn't contact us. They didn't use our deliverable. So why, they are doing that? Because they always, people with people, they always, already, as your last question about the habit, they already built up, a habit for using 2D drawing, using marking, using, a phone call, whatever, face to face. So I think this is really the critical point. And then with the people, okay, so how about the organization? Today, the BIM is not really on the whole project organization. Yeah, so people don't think, okay, when I have thinking a problem, I'm thinking about BIM. No.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, actually.
So if you had a magic.
Yeah.
Go on.
How can I do it? Actually, in the past 3 years, I do a PhD, study. So I hopefully, my paper can be passed and I can release maybe on third quarter of the year, and I can share with you.
That's the answer.
This is, very, very complicated case. Yeah. About the people.
Yeah, the people, the culture, you said, behavior. So if you could have a magic wand, so without sharing your conclusions and everything and the paper spoiling things, but if you could have a magic wand to speed up the process in your region, what would be the first thing that you would fix? What would be that one thing that you would use the magic wand to fix?
I think still, of course, training and training and training. I think this
Training,
is
yeah.
one of the key point. For example, we just finished a 4D simulation, and then once we launch it, we train all the consultant. What is 4D simulation? How do you use it? And what information I want you when you see the simulation? Give me the feedback, because I have to improve the simulation. It's not the nice looking, but to solve the problem. For example, the safety problem, the logistic problem, and this is kind of a collaboration. Yeah.
Yep. So
Yeah.
training and training to get to collaboration. Yeah.
Yeah. To get them know, okay, through the collaboration by seeing the model, and then I can find out what exactly is any hidden agenda for this process. Yeah, I think this is a way. Yeah.
Cool. So
Yeah.
if who else would want to have a go on the magic wand to fix one thing in your region? What would it be? It's a magic wand. Don't all rush at once. You can't. They can't. There's lots of problems, I suppose. But what would be the one thing? What would be? What would you fix? So we talked about online, bringing collaboration, culture, training. There was one thing there about still passing documents and missing the trail of. We're still complaining about document management, but we're still seeing the same challenges. Any thoughts?
Maybe just kind of being able to help to go back to the purpose-driven conversation, right? To be able to just have, like, as you talk about trust, it's really to be open about why this information is required and how, to what detail is it required. And I think that's the foundation of a lot of subsequent issue with having too much information or having outdated information or over delivering, under delivering. Like, a lot of it is actually starts from the planning stage, when you don't have a mutual kind of openness and trust that each other, like the other people are not trying to charge you for a service or make you buy this product or make you do more work, right? It's actually about how to, everybody's actually in this to deliver a better outcome with less resources and an optimized cost. And I think a lot of trust doesn't exist because of various other cultural reasons. So if there's a magic wand, I hope it can fix that that interhuman relationship.
Very cool. There's a question here. Ralph was put in the chat. How many firefighting adrenaline junkies do you have on your projects? People who think they can deliver without planning, and they just do and fix later. And I think that that ties in. Maybe what can light a fire under them, or what can help to influence that perspective, because I think that's a habit. You talked about there's existing ingrained habits, and our industry is so traditional and so focused and set on their ways, and we generally as a construction industry, we dig a hole, we put some concrete in it. That's how we build. So how many of you guys suffer from having those people that love the firefighting, people that love the adrenaline, people that like solving problems and doing it at the last minute? Any examples of those people on your projects? You don't have to name names.
No, I think sorry. I think the point is that the industry actually, how they make money is through the information asymmetry. So everybody holds different information, and because of the difference, and then they make money. So that's why they make the last change, because and then because of last change, I can get the money.
Yep.
If I solve the problem on design stage, and I'm the construction contractor, I earn nothing. I know, okay, the design is wrong, so then I quickly to build it up.
Yeah.
This is, the traditional, I can say, of the industry. And I think nowadays, maybe we can have opportunity to change two things. One is, the economy is very, very bad. That means, okay, we don't have any money, to talk about the VO. And second point is AI, because everybody now, of course, wants to using AI, but the critical, I can say the condition is we need, correct data to feed the AI, to help, to get them learn, the right data. Otherwise, they don't have, they create nothing. So I think, AI can push the industry to have the right information. I think this is, the point, two point that we can pushing, the digital transformation, to a new level. Yeah.
Yeah. The fact that our industry wins when there are problems, people make more money when there is change. It's a difficult thing to battle. Yeah. So, and we've all felt that rush to dive in. Yeah. So, have you ever had a situation where you've been able to convince a client or a team to slow down and actually plan first? Like when you're in that situation, Ralph talked about these adrenaline junkies that need to leave it and wait for the fire and the thing to blow up so that they can be important and fix it at that point in time because it's more critical, it's more urgent. But have you ever to help people to convince them, whether it's a client that you've worked with or internally within your team, help them slow down and plan before they act? You got any examples of that? Anyone? Not you, Stephen. Just you've just talked. Locke
I don't
just
have any
wants to say
examples.
something. There we go.
Yeah, no, I don't have any examples on that, but I've been seeing some of the questions like, can you separate design, authoring, cost planning, coordination, future asset management? Are they optional or interconnected? I would say it's very interconnected. It's garbage in, garbage out. So if you're an owner operator, if you don't take lead and take charge of that information at the beginning, you're going to get garbage at the end. So it's very interconnected. So it really depends on what you are an owner of. If you're just a condominium developer, you may not have to run the FM later. You really don't need much information from starting to end. But if you're an asset owner, asset operator, you're going to make modifications to it. It's super interconnected. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe Clive with Mr. Locke said, because the mention of garbage in, garbage out is part of what I do. Is always tell to the owner is what is your goal. So maybe if they dreaming about their goal, we can make a good document for the preparation, and then hopefully the process is more better and better. I think for me like that. Clive.
Yep. So we talked about a lot. I think just to summarize some of these points, I think we're at our time, so we can break for a networking discussion and continue this in the break rooms. But I've got 2 pages of notes here. I think that we saw so much of these challenges that you guys are solving with one client at a time, and we heard from. So Hanshi, we talked about the unexpected benefits. I wanted to bring that up as well, but we had so many questions all the way around. It's like that's the silver lining when you implement something and you have benefits from a process or a workflow that you've implemented that you weren't expecting. And I suppose, what were you expecting? Maybe I could ask that one question. What were you expecting? And maybe it didn't happen, but you had some unexpected benefits. You mentioned about bringing clients and team members into an online platform rather than sending documents around. What were the things you were expecting and maybe didn't happen, or any other stories around that unexpected benefits piece? I really like the sound of that.
Sure. I think I was originally only expecting, at least our team was just expecting a better managed kind of set of documents or processes, right? Like we're just expecting at least some of the daily working members will be able to follow this, and we were having those senior kind of members of the team as like witnesses, right? Or as like the managing kind of parties. But then we weren't expecting all these very senior and busy members to be so engaged with a lot of the contents that are there, right? So, before, like, you wouldn't add them to like random chats or those like those line or WhatsApp groups, right? For them to be chatting randomly in there. But in this collaborative environment, they're actually very engaged, and they really go whenever they get a notification of the new model being uploaded or new document being published. They really go in there and look at it and screen capture or just leave comments right at the task. And it's really, I think for our team, it's really encouraging for people who are making the model or checking the model to see that a lot of other people are actually caring so much about it, not just from a delivery, like collect this milestone and be done with this perspective, right? But really kind of excited to see this thing envisioned in design stage, which there are tons of renderings produced by architect and other deliverables produced by other parties professionally. But ultimately, this model was very good for them to walk around in, and just very basic things that we forget because we daily work in this environment. So I think that was the unexpected benefit.
Yeah, that's really cool. You can't. Yeah. Sorry, Stephen, go.
Yeah, I think I
well.
had a similar experience with Hanshi, where I heard someone say, "Oh, that's where our drawings or our designs go to." I never knew what our models were used for. Like, okay, interesting. Yeah, so that's one of the benefits that we've seen with a more collaborative environment. Yeah, people at the ground, they actually know what they're being used for, and someone's actually looking at the model. Yeah.
You can't do this digital adoption alone, and I suppose you have to spot kind of who your allies are on a project. You guys kind of lucked into those, I suppose. What's the trick to find the right people, or is it always a bit of a gamble to find who's going to want to collaborate?
Well, I guess
actually, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. Okay, so for me, I guess it's when you go for lunch, you kind of know who jives with you or who has the same wavelength as you and can carry a conversation. But most of the times, it's not luck. It's kind of like you go for lunch, with a bunch of people, and then you kind of know who you want to work with. Yeah, so that's my approach.
Stephen?
Actually, okay. Usually, okay. First, of a new project, we find a champion. That means, okay, who are willing, to open the BIM model to see, the things. Yeah. And then, okay, we also implement another, strategy. Actually, is available on the panel. Is what we call the plan, do, check, act. That means, okay, we ask them, okay, you give me the planning. Not a too long. Ideally 6 weeks, but usually 4 weeks, and actually it's 2 weeks. That means, okay, at least we get the 2 weeks planning ahead, and then we show him, okay, the 2 weeks, within 2 weeks, I guarantee you get what you want. Yeah. And then after that, okay, we execute. For example, once we have deliverable, we're using the system to go through the submission process. Yeah, because every on the construction usually you get the submission approval, and then okay we add that, okay, there's some for example issues on that design, and then we figure out, and then we send an email to alert them, okay, for this issue, suppose I expect that you can return to us 1 week, and then after that we can update the model, so that you can have a clean model maybe 2 weeks later. Of course, the people don't follow too much on that, and then we send the alert for them, and then because we have the penalty, we really know okay what other tasks we should go, and then we really send them okay. If you don't finish that, I cannot do another task. For example, for the 4D simulation, first, we need to start the initial model, and then we have the lens, all the components, for example, the fixing, the safety, more element, and then we put it on that. After that, we say, okay, then you can give me, your installation sequence. So this is a kind of step. And then if you don't give us, a plan, or, according to the plan, to give me, the enough information, then I cannot give, the simulation. And then if I cannot give you the simulation, you cannot give to the government for approval. For example, for the 4D simulation, maybe they need, the road department or the traffic department, to lock, the road, whatever, to close the road. All this kind of thing, I think this is a kind of the submission process. And then step by step, okay, we build a habit for certain people first. Yeah. And then after, and we have the experience. The first month is very difficult. And after 6 months, it's more smooth. Yeah.
Becomes a habit. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Can I ask each one of you maybe 1 or 2 lines, just a closing thought, any advice for people that are wanting to get into planning and implement workflows on their projects to do some of the things that you're doing so well already? Just 1 or 2 thoughts just to close out. I'll point at Locke. Can you go for closing thought?
Well, I guess it's easier said than done that you need to plan everything, but over planning, of course, is too much. So I guess it's finding the right balance of how much that needs to be planned ahead of time. And I take Stephen's note to point that try and focus on the short term, what you can achieve, the low hanging fruits, and then move from there. Yeah, so that would be my takeaway.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's come up a couple of times, but not overdoing anything, over setting requirements or over detailed planning or over it. Yeah, too much of anything can be a bad thing. So yeah, trying to get that balance is definitely important. Hanshi?
Definitely agree with Locke there. And yeah, pick the biggest wins that you can get and set the big boundaries first, right? It's not about, like I remember one of those things that one of my teachers told me, like if you want to fly a rocket to the moon, you don't target at the very specific place, right? You target the moon first, and then you get closer and closer, and you try to adjust your trajectory. Eventually you will land correctly, right? But wanting to target very precisely moment 1 is never going to work. So I think, yeah, definitely what Locke said is so true.
Cool. How about you? Closing thoughts?
Yeah. Maybe for me is keep open-minded, keep simple, and keep seeing the goals is in the simple way.
Simple. I love it. And then Stephen?
I think for planning with review, I think this is important. So we have planned, and then you have some expectation. Of course, this is not ideal. That means okay, maybe you have some deviation, and with the review, and then we plan again. And I think this is a close loop. And as we mentioned, okay, this will become a habit, a culture, and people will realize okay the value of the plan. Yeah.
I like that a lot. The point that it's not, the task is not to plan. The task is to use the plan, learn from the plan, and then actually act on something and then refine it to get to a better outcome. Yeah. Thank you so much, everybody. This has been really insightful. Thank you for sharing your case studies and examples and practical implementations, better planning. And thanks for sharing your insights on the panel. It's been really, really insightful. Thank you very much. Hopefully you can hang out with us in the break room to answer some questions. I think some of the people that have been on, there we go. The task is not to plan, it is to use the plan. Thank you, Ralph, for the perfect summary.